Hello and welcome to our second live session, which we are super excited to be starting. This week is all about making Kenny, so I'm going to get a few things sorted very quickly and then we'll start up the actual screen. First off, honestly, thank you so much to everybody who is joining. It's a massive help to me. For some reason I have more YouTube followers than I do have Patreons, but that's okay. The goal, of course, is obviously always going to be Patreon, so please do consider joining Patreon. That's where you get so much more. Whenever I'm posting things on YouTube, it's very much just a vlog type thing. There's nothing really in it apart from, like almost like a setup to what's going to be happening. So I appreciate people who are watching the videos. I appreciate people who have subscribed to the YouTube. Thank you so much for that. Please do consider joining the Patreon. When you join the Monarch tier, when you join the Knight tier, you get to come to these live sessions, you get to take part in all the things that where in the stories, you get to make the stories with me, and that's honestly, it's such an exciting thing for me, and I appreciate anyone who is joining me. If you are still looking to come to join the Patreon, but are unsure about, maybe it's a bit too pricey for you or whatnot, please consider joining the Squire tier. It's less, you get less, but actually you're still very much part of it, and I appreciate everybody who joins the Patreon. So do consider joining. Right, without further ado, let's get started with this live session. So what I thought we'd do is we'd start off with a few silhouettes. I had a look online, had a look at some cars, like sci-fi type thing, and the best thing I thought to do is to silhouette some things out. So what we've done is we've taken a few different ideas, a few different variations on some sci-fi looking vehicles, and we're going to silhouette them first. And the reason that we're silhouetting it first is to get the overall picture, to see if it looks decent, if you can almost just see the outline of it. Once we have established the outline, then we can go in and make some changes, add some little bits of detail here and there on the final product. But for now, it's so much easier to design a silhouette if you or a cool piece of equipment if the silhouette itself looks cool. So that was the first step. And as you can see, I tried to make variations. I didn't want the same thing over and over again. I just wanted to have some cool sci-fi looking things. I don't want and of course we had to accommodate for certain things like wheels, we had to accommodate for doors, we had to accommodate for lights, all that kind of stuff. But it still had to look cool. So we don't want the same thing over and over again. You try and make as many ideas as you possibly can. Once you have established loads of ideas, it gives you a variety that you can then tweak and maybe pick out ones that you like more than others. So right now it's not about whether it looks cool, whether it looks bad. It's just about if it suits the purpose that we're going for, or suits the story aspect that it needs to suit. So here I was just making a few little notes to myself, thinking, right, okay, well, one of them looks quite a bit like a motorbike, one of them maybe looks a bit more like a tractor, one of them kind of looks like a Batmobile, so, does it work, does it not? So, once I establish the silhouette, all I have to do is lower the opacity to roughly about 25-30%, and I can draw over it on a new layer. I like to use like a really loose, sketchy pen for this. I'm not finalizing anything, it's just rough. Anything that comes to mind, all I'm trying to do is fit the silhouette and create shapes around that silhouette. Now again, I don't have to necessarily stick to the exact silhouette. So it's not a hard and fast rule that you have to, whatever you've drawn already previously as what the silhouette is, that's whatever it is your shape is going to look like. Once you're actually in the kind of the design, the rough sketch stage, all sorts of ideas pop into your head, and different things take over. So the shape doesn't have to fit exactly, and so you will deviate a little bit. And as you can see, the one that I just drew does look a little bit too much like a tractor. But in any case, this is me just putting in a little bit of details. The whole point in this little first page was sci-fi looking things, and I wanted to emphasize the whole sci-fi, futuristic, spacey wacy type feel that Bounty is going to have. So this next set of images was more along the taxi feel. So the whole point, Kenny's basically a taxi driver, and what he is trying to do is he is trying to pass his test for vehicles that can go into outer space. So right now we still very much have what is essentially warp capability vehicles, but only you have to pass a driving test in order to do it. So Kenny's job is driving a taxi, but he's limited to what a taxi is. He's limited to going on road. He doesn't really have like the up and down controls. So I was looking at different taxis. I looked at the American classic taxi. I looked at the British classic taxi. I looked at some futuristic taxis possibly, which is more like a box than anything else. And we came up with some kind of lemony cars, nothing huge, a little bit boxy. But then I was thinking, right, let's go a bit ridiculous and let's try and put in like a rickshaw type thing or a tuk-tuk. So, the whole point is to try different variations, try different ideas, see what works, what doesn't work, and then just pick what ones that you think fit best for the story. So even this is a little bit more of an American classic taxi type thing. So the same process that I did in the first kind of set of images, all I am doing is putting in silhouettes, see what fits, and you can kind of see where I'm trying to fit the shapes in here and there, but that's just to get an idea of making the silhouettes a little bit more accurate. But it doesn't have to be, but it helps me when I'm planning a little bit, that's all it is. So there's nothing really major to this. And same as last time, the way when I've got all the silhouettes kind of in, then I'll start to draw it out as vehicles, drawing a little bit more detail with a really, really rough pen. You could use a pencil if you prefer, but I don't know. I kind of like the ballpoint pen kind of feel to it. To me, whenever I'm drawing with a ballpoint pen, it's always felt a lot looser. It's always felt a little bit sketchy. Always been more concept art type thing for me. I don't know, people ever like, there's professional concept art that we can go into and you could do, but for the sake of this story, because the time is effectively limited to us, we don't have a lot of time to do all the things that we want to do. We have to essentially have, right, well, here's my character design, here's my vehicle design, here's my background design, and we have to limit it like that, because the nature of manga, the nature of comic books is you have to be fast. And I know there's deadlines when it comes to video games and movies and things like that as well, but loose sketching and I suppose there's a little bit more. I don't want to say there's a little bit more time when it comes to movies and TV and things like that, because it really just depends on what the deadline is. But I reckon if you just need to get something out there, especially when it comes to like a manga, because mangas are like weekly sometimes and you have to do like 20 odd pages when it comes to character designs, when it comes to other designs, asset designs, pretty much has to be, right, does this look cool for the moment? Yes. Can you change it later on? Yeah, you probably can, and that's just an upgrade to the character. That's a different suit to the character, and that's kind of why it happens. It's like, right, okay, I like the design for now. I will eventually change it, give them a different hairstyle. I'll, make them mature as the story goes on, and that works, that fits. So, yep, be aware that your design that's final doesn't have to be your final design. So what I did now is I took some that I liked. I actually talked to my wife about this, and she said, well, I like these 3 mostly, and these are just me writing down some ideas to think about. And what I said was, right, because Kenny needs to be driving a taxi, there has to be some sort of safe feel to it. So we kept it a little bit more of a soft box type shape. So you notice there's not really any hard edges on this. We did have to think clearly about how the door opens, where the lights are coming from, where the taxi sign's going to be. So this is me just kind of sketching out a little bit more of the, I suppose the systematic side of it, as in the door needs to open from there, so the entire side of the vehicle will have to open up. What's that going to do to the lights? What's it going to look like when it's open? Right from there, what's the top going to look like? If I'm drawing this on, from a plan view, what does it actually look like? Will it still be recognizable? Will it still have that kind of soft feel shape? And you know what? Yes, it does with this. And although Kenny's our main character, he's not going to be driving a cool car. That's the problem with Kenny, is that he wants more than what he has, and so the things that he has are not necessarily the coolest or the best. And he's not willing to take advice from other people. He thinks he can do everything himself. And the problem with trying to do everything yourself is you pretty much get left with things out with your control, including, for example, what car you drive. So here I'm just drawing a little bit of an interior to get my head around it a little bit more, so I can then plan it out a little bit and finalise what the car is actually going to look like. So our last little bit now is to sketch out the car with some colour and maybe just kind of finalise a concept that, just to make sure that it still works and everything is still almost to plan. So as you can probably tell, I'm using the sketches that I did before just to draw out a little bit more and then almost finalise what it'll look like. Thinking a little bit more about things like the door. I kind of scrapped the idea of side mirrors as well. I figured they're pretty much going to have cameras everywhere, probably on the dashboard. And I'll go into that in a sec as well. You'll see the final picture. And I'm not really too worried about perspective on this. I know it's not the most accurate thing right now, but it's a rough sketch for me that I can use later on when it comes to the actual comic. Right now I'm just establishing colour, I'm establishing form, and I'm establishing purpose. I don't like the idea of getting into a design without everything being there for a reason. To me, if you add random buttons, if you add random things, what's the point in those being there? If it's just aesthetics, that's not good enough. There's no reason for things to be there. I like to have purpose. I like to have a reason for everything that's there. So if you look at it, I've got headlights, I've got front lights, I've got the standard the reason it's yellow and it's white is because those are the easiest colours to see. I have large mirrors and things like that because some cases you'll need to look up as well as forward. Passengers can feel somewhat safe having a wider view. You're going to have lights around the car shining out for when it's dark. You're going to have taxi clearly written. And you'll have comfortable seats because that's what taxis are, I suppose, should be for, is for having some level of comfort. There's also a large space in the back in case people want to put in luggage and whatnot. Say they're coming from abroad, coming from one of those, warp-capable vehicles. They'll then get a taxi to their destination, hotels and whatnot. So the inside inbuilt will be sat-nav or some sort of directional thing. That will allow drivers to take you to where you need to go. And obviously the drivers to some extent will know the roads themselves as well. Anyway, these are all the things that I'm trying to think about as I'm creating this project. And here it is, the final design, Kenny's taxi. So thank you everybody for joining me, and I'll see you at the next one.